It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Nolan Patel, DDS. He's a recent graduate of the University of Michigan School of Dentistry class of 2020. He started off working in private practice part-time for his mentor and part-time at a DSO. Since the beginning of 2021, he switched full-time to the DSO and has recently started looking into practice ownership. To stay up to date with dentistry, he attends Spears CE courses, and in his free time, you can find him checking out local bars and restaurants in Chicago. So, having a dental degree and all that hair, are you just like a lady killer on Rush Street? Can you just go down there and like point to any girl you want and just...
I'm too busy working to try that out.
Is Rush Street still the place?
It's more so, yeah, Rush Street has still a decent amount of bars and restaurants on it. But I think the downtown area has expanded rapidly. So there's different neighborhoods and different pockets of, depending on what you're looking for these days. So a lot of good places.
I could tell you a story about how old were you in 1980?
Not born yet.
Oh, man. So we were driving to a Notre Dame game from Omaha, Nebraska, cut across Iowa, went all the way to South Bend, Indiana to watch Notre Dame play USC, and we stopped at Rush Street and walked into a bar, and Flock of Seagulls were playing. I mean, a little known, nowhere hole in the ground. Have you heard of Flock of Seagulls?
No.
Oh my God, that was I was like the biggest band at the time, and I think my ears are still ringing. So you say you're a huge proponent of owning your own dental practice, and you would love to discuss any tips for first time buyers. First of all, tell us about your dental journey. I got out of school in '87. You got out in 2020, so obviously you're far more in touch with recent grads. What was it like graduating from dental school 2 years ago? And, when I go back 30 years ago, pretty much everybody wanted to own their own practice. And then it seemed like about 15 years ago, everybody realized or thought they were going to have to work for a DSO and decided that they all wanted to own DSOs. Nobody wanted to actually practice dentistry anymore. Everybody in the class was going to own a DSO and have 100 dentists working for them. But what is the psychological mindset of the University of Michigan School of Dentistry class of 2020 that you walked out? How many of them do you think, if there were 100, how many graduates were there, and how many just assumed they'd be an employee at a DSO the rest of their life, or wanted to go into a small solopreneurship, or start their own DSO?
Yeah, so we had 139 graduates, and I would say about 30% went on to specialize. So I have a bunch of classmates who are still in either an ortho residency or oral surgery. But out of the dentists who went into general practice, I would say there's only about 3 or 4 of them that I know who either own their own practice right now or are looking to purchase one. So not a lot of people right now, but that's granted just the people that I've reached out to and just my friends from school.
Yeah, I surveyed all my friends from dental school, and then I realized I don't have any friends from dental school, so I couldn't survey any. But that is really amazing. It's what percent of your class was women?
Oh, 50%.
Yeah. Now, do you think that had a big demographic change from the day when I went there and it was 20% women, 80% men, and it seemed like half? We had a bunch of people that went into graduate specialized and graduate school and all that, but my God, I opened my dental office 133 days after I graduated, and it seems like I don't know any exact statistics, but it seems like everybody was gunning to own their own practice. I mean, it was either you were gonna do that or specialize, or if you wanted to get a job, it was the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, public health, military dentist, prison dentist, whatever. I kid you not. Do you know I got an offer, and I thought it was a joke. I got an offer to be a prison dentist right here in Arizona at an all-girls prison.
Wow. We actually, in dental school, we had what we called external rotations. So you would go across the state of Michigan, and you would practice dentistry in underserved areas. And one of the places was you would go to the prison in Michigan, and you would do dentistry on the inmates there, along with there was a couple of Indian reservations that they made us go out to, and we would stay there for a month and do dentistry over there. So I can totally see. We had a few classmates that even said that prison dentistry seems really fun, and they can see themselves doing that once they service their debt. So
I asked my mom, I said, technically speaking, do you think me being a dentist in a all women's prison, would I actually be in hell, or is that just a minor technicality? But yeah, so where do you think some people think that it was changing from all men to all women, that when it maybe more employees. What do you think, or do you think it had more to do with just millennials? I think it had more to just do with millennials, because we see it around the world. Like everybody, when I lectured in Japan, I mean, they were all telling me that that the kids watch their dads go work at Honda for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, come home, drink sake till he passed out and died of heart disease. And that the next generation just said, we're not going to work that hard. I'm not going to give my life to Honda, Toyota, whatever. Do you think it's just lifestyle, where people like our generation, we worked so hard that our kids thought, I know I'm not going to do that. Do you think that's what it is, or do you think it's demographics, going from more men to women, or what do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of a few things. One is dental school is so expensive these days compared to years past and decades past. And so I remember reading an article that said the average dental student at NYU School of Dentistry, the class of 2024, was going to have an average debt of $700,000 when they graduated. And so you couple that with the fact that you have to service that debt now. So you need to find a practice that is doing the numbers enough for you to pay that debt down. And a practice like that is probably going to cost at least $800,000, probably $1 million plus. And so now you're 26, 27 years old, early 30s even, and you are in the hole $1.5 million if you decide to buy that practice, if not more. And so that number is scary, I think, for a lot of people, even though I guess there's good debt and bad debt, and taking on that additional debt of practice ownership is probably the way to go. But I think that overall number is just scary for people, and so they're shying away from being practice owners. I also think it has a lot to do with, like you said, the lifestyle. Growing up, like even when we went on vacation, my dad would take his laptop on vacation because he always had to check emails. He was always working. So there's so many millennials now that are trying to adopt, a 3-day work week or a 4-day work week, especially as dentists, where, yeah, we probably don't want to work as hard as our parents did. We want to enjoy life a little bit more. So I would say it's a combination of those two things.
So where'd you get that 700,000 number at? Where did you get that?
Yeah, it was just an article that I read, and I forget where I saw it.
But is that just from dental school, or is that from graduate ortho, perio, pedo?
I think that they were taking that number from dental school as well as from undergrad, so college and dental school.
Yeah, that's just a whole lot of money for education. I mean, it's one thing if your parents are going to pay for it, and right. I notice a lot of immigrants in the United States. It's their parents' dream that they graduate from the United States, as a doctor, dentist, physician, something like that. So if that's your dad and mom's whole deal, that'd be okay. But man, graduating $700,000. But I noticed one thing: we got 2 dental schools out here. And just to call it like it is, I mean, you drive through their parking lot. I mean, it looks like a Lexus Toyota dealership. I mean, it's all filled with $30,000 cars. And then on vacations, they're all talking about going on cruises, and they go to what is it, Corpus Christi? Corpus Christi. What is that? What's that, Corpus Christi? Padre Island. But they seem to live high on the hog. I mean, I don't remember anybody in our class having a new car and going on a cruise and Corpus Christi and going out to restaurants all the time and things like that. I mean, I read another thing that if you're under 30, You eat out 21 out of 30 meals. I know dental students who have a Starbucks every single morning. I mean, that's $5 a day times three. So they're probably not living low. But if you but again, I always tell people on the student loan stuff. Okay, your first divorce is going to cost $1 million. Okay, my student loans was 87,000, and my divorce was 3.8 million. So my
Wow.
divorce was 41 times more expensive than student loans. So I don't even want to hear about student loans. And the worst divorce isn't with the mother of your children. It's with your because for the kids and the family, you just roll over and whatever. You just make everyone happy. But man, when you're divorcing another male dentist, you know how many dentists I know that sold half their dental office to a dentist for 500,000, and then decided 2, 3, 4, 5 years later this is a nightmare, and spent about another 500 to 600,000 on legal fees to get rid of them. Then only to find out they had to give the $500,000 back. So I mean, I tell people if you want to have a partner, make sure you really want to make love to them a lot all the time. Because if
Right.
it's a male dentist and you're not making love to them and you don't share kids and family and holidays and vacations or whatever, man, when it goes south and you're going up against a guy who got A's in physics, calculus, geometry, and trig and knows the difference between a cosine and a tangent, I mean, it's just like it goes nuclear. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't do that. But man, and then all the other thing is, my mom and dad had 7 kids. I had 4 kids. And then my 4 boys, the first one had 4, but the second one had 0. And then the last 2 each had 2 each. So if you have 2, how many siblings were in your family?
Just me and my sister.
Yeah, so that's 2. So if you just have 1 kid, you cut that cost in half. But so I always tell people that you got to do it for a lifestyle thing. That's what I recommend. I mean, the finance thing, the lifestyle thing. I just and again, it could have been totally different in my class than yours, but I just didn't go to school with 120 people for 4 years and could name one of those people who I thought would like taking orders. I didn't see anybody in my class that said, yeah, I went to school 8 years because when I graduated from dentistry, I want to work for Nolan. I want to be one of Nolan's bitches at Nolan's DSO in downtown Chicago. And I just wake up every day and say, Nolan, what do you want me to do? I just don't see that with dentists. But I think the natural rate, I think it's going to follow lawyers. There's 1 million lawyers. Half of them are in big group and half are solo. And I think that's about the deal. And I think DSOs are going to follow Price Waterhouse Cooper House. They're decades behind partnerships. Even law firms like when a young lawyer and they got half the lawyers, they go to a law firm because it's prestigious. I don't even see a DSO trying to be prestigious. I mean, you look at healthcare, Mayo Clinic, they're trying to take Scripps, Cleveland Clinic, Sloan Fettering. I mean, you got all these physicians groups that try to be the best in the world for quality. Where's the Mayo Clinic of the dental group? Which dental group is trying to be Mayo Clinic? I mean, do you think Aspen's branding to be Mayo Clinic? Who's trying to be Scripps or what is it? Case Western in Cleveland. I mean, who's trying to be the Sloan Cancer set? I mean, in healthcare, everybody's trying to be the top quality guy. And in dentistry, everybody's trying to be, no one wants to be Ruth's Chris. Everybody wants to be McDonald's. They're all going into the suburb. They all have the same business model, except for Aspen. They have the same business model. We're going to go where the homes are $60,000 a year, median household income. It's suburban, 3-bedroom, 2-bath to 4-bedroom, 3-car garage. They all have dental insurance. Everybody wants to do that. I think Aspen has the best model because they're going where they aim. They're chasing the Medicaid crowd, putting a denture center in there. And I lost my own uncle to Aspen. He said, well, they have a denture guy in there. He said, when I go into you got to send it out. At Aspen, right up the street, they do it right there. And he'd rather pay cash to have it right there and not leave the waiting room than drop his teeth off at me in the morning, come back and get him at 5 at night. So Aspen seems like they're the only ones focused on the low income, and everybody else is on the Medicaid. But I don't see anybody trying to be the quality, the top quality dog.
Right.
How do you see the DSOs? Do you see them all peanut butter and jelly in the same business model, or do you see true differentiation?
Yeah. So the DSO that I work for is, again, just like you said, it's heavily in a Medicaid area. It's south side of Chicago. It's a very insurance driven company model. And so when I sit down, I can't treatment plan. We're going to do crowns from 6 through 11, and we're going to restore your BDO, and then we'll place implants here. And, it's always, well, hey, doc, what does the insurance cover? Well, they cover full mouth extraction and complete dentures. Okay, perfect. That's what we'll do then. So yeah.
So it's insurance driven, but it's low fee insurance. It's government, Medicaid, Medicare.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you're around the world, Medicare is the United States is weird. If you're over 65, it's a federal program, Medicare, which would be like socialized medicine, federal level. But then for the poor, they do it state by state, and it's a horrible deal. Like I remember when Obama branded Obamacare. Everybody in my practice did that. It was just, half the population just wanted to slam Obama. Like, Obamacare. And I'd say, yeah. And I'd say, well, do you like access, Arizona access? Oh my God, I love it. Okay. Well, that's Obamacare in Arizona. But the branding, I mean, to have a president launch Obamacare and then have it name 50 different things. And that group isn't always the brightest group to begin with. The poor and uneducated, they probably didn't finish 12th grade, probably below the poverty line, probably have substance abuse disorders, things like that. So it was the worst branding I'd ever seen in my life. But so you're talking about the low income government care. So when you say we're going to pull all your teeth and do dentures, do they like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they like it, but they have really no other choice. They can't afford, most of them can't afford any out-of-pocket care. And so it's always, for example, they don't even cover partial dentures. So I've had some patients where, a partial denture would probably be the best bet, but we either can't make them and we just leave them with what teeth they have, or they'll come back and say, okay, well, let's take out the rest of these teeth because I can't eat with the ones I have. And I can't afford a partial denture. So I need something that is going to be covered. And you go that route. So I wouldn't say they're happy with it, but they're forced to make a decision financially, and they go with what's available.
It's funny, when I was in dental school, they actually predicted that like 5 years out of dental school would be the end of dentures. I mean, it was just going away, fluoridated water, it was just going away. And now I graduated in 87. Now it's 22. So I've been out 35 years. They do more dentures today than the day I graduated. And down in Nogales, Arizona, if you go down Phoenix to Tucson to the border of Mexico, Nogales, one of my favorite labs in the whole world. You mail them to Nogales, Arizona, then they drive them across, and there's a lab there that does 1,100 cast partials a day.
Wow.
And it really, really is bizarre because it really changed my whole belief in dentistry. 90% of the prescriptions from the dentist just say lower partial. Only 10% like cut a receipt or a design. I mean, you think for, getting 500,000, 1,500, you can at least get a football bird, cut a receipt just for shits and grins. But no, 9 out of 10, lower partial and a shade. And I'm just like, wow, you don't even give. How could you give a single shit if you just send in a deal? That's it. But anyway, crazy. But I noticed a deal with the dentures in my 35 years of doing those, that, man, when you put them in young, like if some kid comes in from Apache Junction or Bakersfield and he's a complete meth head and it's all mush, and you pull everything out and you put an denture, they're young and they got their whole life ahead of them. They want to get married. They want a lover. They want kids. And by God, when they get them young, they come in at 65 and they still eat apples with their denture. But if you get them when they're old and they're already set in their ways, you get them like 35, 40, and they already chewed a certain way for 40 years, and you give them that. It's really, really hard to adjust to that. And if you take someone who could eat with natural teeth till 65 and give them a denture, I mean, they're just cripples. I mean, it's like breaking their legs and giving them two wooden legs.
Yeah.
How often are you doing a denture?
Oh man, I would say that I'm either starting one every day, or I'm in the process in one of the 5 appointments every day, multiple, usually every day. That and extractions, I would say, are the two most prevalent procedures that I do.
Now, do you like those two procedures?
Um, I never enjoyed pros per se, so I can't say I'm a big fan of fabricating dentures and bringing them back for 5 appointments and doing all that. But I love extractions.
Yeah, so do
So
I.
yeah, so I can do extractions all day.
It's that instant gratification when you do a wisdom tooth. I mean, it just did you get it out or not? Whereas that's it takes me about no more than 2 or 3 minutes on a tooth, but a root canal is like that's at least an hour. And a denture, like
Right.
you say, it's like 5 appointments. I just love the instant gratification, just sitting down and pulling out teeth. It's just amazing. But I'm telling you, I guarantee you, starting doing removable every day, that's a rare skill set. So it's
Yeah.
almost like you're in specialist school. I mean, 90% of all the dentists that I talk to on a regular level, like at least daily or weekly or whatever, I mean, they don't even do removable. I mean, they might start a denture like maybe once a year. I mean, it's just non-existent. So my God, you're really getting experience in that.
Yeah, a lot of these practices that I am looking, to purchase, meeting with a lot of these older dentists, I think those are two procedures, at least that I've found so far, that they don't do. They refer most of their pros and they refer most of their extractions. For some reason, the older dentists just don't really want to do those two things anymore.
Yeah, I remember when I said prosthodonts first time to my oldest sisters. My two oldest sisters were Catholic nuns, and she said, "What's a prosthodontist?" I said, "Why do you ask?" She goes, "Well, prosty is artificial, and toot is love, prosty toot." And she goes, "Prosto artificial, donto mean tooth." And I said, "Yeah." So prostitute is artificial love, and prosthodontics is artificial teeth. I thought that was pretty interesting. So where are you at in your journey? I know you can't talk about practices you're looking at. I mean, confidentiality, but which? So you've done 2 years at a DSO, and you're thinking about wanting to buy a practice.
Yeah, so when I graduated in 2020, I actually ended up working in a private practice for about, I would say, 9, 10 months for my mentor. But his practice kind of got hit hard by COVID. And so it got to a point where it wasn't really a two-doctor practice anymore. And I'm sure he's built it back up since then, but I just never really went back there. So I started off in private practice, did that, split my time between private practice and the DSO. And then at the start of 2021, I went full time at the DSO. And then now I'm at a point where I feel like I've just hit the ceiling at where I am, and I'm ready to take the next step, which for me is looking to purchase a practice.
Okay, when you say hit the ceiling, how did what was the ceiling? Why? If you were talking to if the owner of that DSO was listening, or someone in HR, or someone in recruiting, I mean, in LinkedIn, I think the fastest growing business in dentistry is a LinkedIn recruiter to get a dentist. Most of those DSOs, about 10% of their offices don't even have a doc in the box on any given day. So they do anything to get a doc in the box. But talk to that recruiter. Why did you? What made you hit the ceiling? Why do you no longer want to be there after a year?
Yeah, so like I said, it's a very insurance driven business. And so for the most part, you're doing fillings, crowns, extractions, and fabricating dentures, which when you first graduate, I think those are probably the four procedures that you should really try and nail down, because that's bread and butter dentistry. But
Say
after
the
about a
four
year,
procedures again. Bread, butter, dentistry.
I would say extractions, fillings, crowns, and dentures. Um, and after doing that for 2 years, I feel like I can confidently do a crown prep, or I could confidently do an MOD filling, multiple, whole quad of MODs if need be. I feel that I can extract any tooth that walks in through the door now. But there's a point now where I want to learn how to do things like Invisalign or place implants or do molar endo. And those procedures are just not available to you at the DSO that I'm currently at. So I'm looking to,
Well, there's definitely the low income market and the high income market. I mean, like cars. I mean, there's like 9 global car companies. They all have price points from a Mercedes to a Cadillac, an Olds, a Buick, a Pontiac, a Chevy. 70% of the market in cars is used cars. Houses. People talk about 3 million new homes a month, but most people buy a used home. So there's the low income and the high income. Now, when you're doing MODs, are you doing amalgam?
No, we do have amalgam available, but I'm mostly doing composite unless I'm really having a tough time isolating for whatever reason, then I'll do an amalgam. But I feel like since dental school, I've probably only done a handful of amalgams.
That is the one. That is the one thing I've noticed the most about dentistry's problem with market differentiation is if you say, okay, they totally get, okay, if I give you $1, you're getting a McDonald's hamburger, and if I give you $5 or $10, you're getting a Ruth's Chris steak, right? I mean, they get it. And if you went into McDonald's and you said, well, it's prom night and I don't think anybody's going to come to McDonald's, so let's get some tablecloths and some chandeliers and some silverware, and they can't do it. Like, what I don't understand is like they'll get $1 for a filling, and and you could do that all day long for profit for an amalgam. Yet that dentist will knock out a rubber dam and he'll numb it up and he'll pack cord and he'll do all this shit to put in a Cadillac. But he was paid for a gosh darn used car. I mean, let's just say Ford Escort for $15,000 and Ford Taurus for $30,000. Ford Escort's the #1 selling car in the world. Ford Taurus #1 selling car in the United States. I mean, you don't mix those up, but I see that all the time in dentistry where they get these they have high overhead because they're getting paid for a McDonald's hamburger, and they're doing a steak sandwich. So, I mean, how much faster would you be doing in these places if you were just doing amalgam?
How much faster would an amalgam be compared to a composite?
Yeah. I
Man,
mean, my
I don't know.
God, you can have an MOD prep and put on the matrix band, and there could be filled with blood, and you could fill it up with amalgam, and you could literally burnish. I mean, amalgam, and the thing I hate the most about composite, and the thing I hate the most about dentists from the 20 rich countries, Canada, United States, Western, you're all bitching about amalgam, is that then you go to the third world countries and those dentists want to be like you, and they're doing composites, but they don't have high-speed suction. They don't have a dental assistant. The patient's spitting in a pickle in a 5-gallon plastic deal, and you're standing here watching behind the composite. I mean, I've seen some of the biggest disasters in the world, like the dentist will etch, and then the patient will sit up and rinse and spit in the bucket, and then he'll put, it's like, oh my God. But if that would have been amalgam, it would have been a 30-year permanent restoration.
Right.
But
I just feel like I've gotten so fast at doing composite that I don't. It'd be
So are you doing bulk fill then? Bulk fill?
No.
Tell us your technique if it's so fast. What materials and how are you doing it? That's you feel like you're fast.
I've just done so many of them, but in terms of materials, it's nothing special. I mean, sectional matrix bands with Filtech, so you cure incrementally 2 millimeters at most. But I feel like when you just do so many preps, you get good at just removing the decay and then filling it up. And it also depends on a lot if you have a good assistant. We have pretty good assistants that have been doing this for a while, so they know exactly what instrument to hand me next. And
it seems like the money things. If someone comes in with a toothache and you own your own business and you could do a 1 appointment root canal build up and crown, holy moly! Or you can extract the tooth and place an implant. So they come in, they extract, they leave with an implant sunk. Bingo, bingo, bingo. And Invisalign. I don't know. I still haven't got my mind around if dentists should do Invisalign or take all the money that they would spend training for Invisalign and just
Yeah.
buy the damn stock that's been going down, because we're in a deleveraging cycle right now, and this is I've lived through it 4 times. I was actually born in '62. That was the year of the flash crash, but I don't remember anything. But graduated from high school in '80. That was when interest rates were inflation was 20.5%, and interest rates. The Fed had interest rates to 20.5%. Can you believe that? Double-digit inflation, unemployment. Then I graduated from dental school in '87, which was 133 days before Black Monday. And then Y2K, you all know what that is, in Lehman's Day. So I've lived through that movie 4 times. I'm in the middle of the movie right now. So I've seen it
Right.
4 times. I'm not doom and gloom, because I've seen the damn movie 4 times. There's no surprise at the end, but I think the top was in November. And you got to remember, like when I got out of dental school, everybody calls it Black Monday. Well, that market had been dribbling down for a quarter, and then it has the one-day dump. Same thing to Y2K. It's always, and I think the height was in November. It's been dribbling down. You had a lot of January and February where, you might lose, the market might go down 1% a day, and then it grew to 2%, and just last week it was like 3%, and last week was 4% or 5%, but there'll still be a one-day dump where it's just like one day. There's always the crap, but it seems like in my lifetime it's always been a year from the top to the bottom. But by God, you just need to have your list of stocks, and I have mine, and one of those is absolutely my 2 dental stocks or Align Technology, Henry Schein. But I'll just tell you my stocks: Berkshire, Apple, Alphabet, Bank of America, American Express, Amazon, Coca-Cola, Kraft Heinz, Kroger, Costco, Walmart, Home Depot, Verizon, Microsoft, Cisco, Align Technology, Henry Schein, Daily Journal, TSMC, BioNTech, Tesla. But I mostly stay at the top there. But I have my whole list, because if you're going to buy 500, if you're going to buy an S&P 500, if you can't pull one stock at a 500 that's a turd, you shouldn't even be in the market. You literally should have someone else do it for you. But I don't know anybody that invests in more than 5 companies. Most people are the founder of the company and have all their money in their company. But I think you'd just be fine, Berkshire, Apple. But on Align Technology, if I was an orthodontist right now, I would sell my entire orthodontic office, practice, everything, and then put it all into Align Technology sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. At the market bottom, because that would be an amazing. I think there's more money into owning Align Technology than to learning how to do Invisalign, because I've lectured around the world, and no matter where I went around the world, me and my boys, we could be eating in Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Japan, to anywhere. And the minute they found out I was a dentist, the waitress instantly, oh, Invisalign? And had all these Invisalign, and showed me all these questions. And oh my God, that brand is so huge in Africa, Asia, India.
Right.
I mean, it's just that thing's not going to stop. So back to why you left. It's just because you were doing low-end procedures, you were doing extractions, you were doing dentures, and you were doing fillings, but you want to learn some high-end procedures. You want to do implants and Invisalign. So is it just basically you want to go from doing you feel like you've really learned the low-cost procedures, now you want to learn the high-cost procedures?
That's a part of it, but it's also, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and so I have that spirit within me. And going into dental school, I knew early on that I wanted to be a practice owner, small business owner. And I just feel that owning your own practice, you get to set your own schedule. You can take days off when you want. And it's just something that I've always wanted to do. And I don't really see myself being an associate. I think you say it all the time on your podcast, where for the first 5 years, there's all these students or all these dentists are working at a different DSO every year, and they hate the last one even more than, or they hate the current one even more than the last one. And then they finally cave in and buy their own practice, and it's the best decision they can make. So yeah, I'm just ready to do my own thing.
Okay, so you want to go from low cost procedures, high cost procedures, but you're ready to be your own boss. You're ready to be self-employed.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, and I would think anybody goes 7, 8, 9, 10 years of college. 7, 8, 9, 10 years of college to what? Be an employee at the post office? Really? I mean, seems like some things if you get that far, you want to be self-employed. But it is a personality trait. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
some people. I tell people all the time. They'll be complaining about their work, and they're just saying, they're so disorganized. And I work for a plumbing company, and we have 7 vans, and other people are always taking stuff out of my van, and and why can't? And I said, okay, well, that's an operation. Listen, your owner probably had a flair for entrepreneurial. He probably had a flair for marketing. He probably has a flair for. He's got 7 trucks. You're an employee. He's got 7 trucks, but obviously you can't wear every hat. And it sounds like he doesn't have a flair for operation logistics. So what you have to do on hiring is you just always have to hire people that are interested in things that you're not interested in. Like you're probably, if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, you probably are interested in accounting, finance, marketing, all kinds of things. So that's interesting. So what are your options now? Are you thinking about, so you're born and raised in Chicago. I imagine at your age, you're probably ready to go to Green Bay and see a real football team. Are you gonna leave, or are you gonna stay in Chicago?
I want to stay. Most of my family's still here. A lot of my friends from high school and college are still here. So I think I'm going to stick around. And in terms of what options I have, it's actually the original reason why I was on this podcast. I want to ask you about it. So I've identified 2 practices. We'll obviously keep them anonymous. I'll say practice A and practice B. In practice A, the dentist is pretty much ready to call it quits. He's close to 70 years old. He just wants to leave and just spend time with his family now. So he's looking to sell, and it's cash flow and it's doing really well. And then in practice B, the dentist wants to work another 3-4 years, but he kind of wants to get away from ownership now. Just wants to work as an associate until, the next 3-4 years and then call it quits. So how dumb or idiotic would it be to purchase both practices where I would work full time in practice A, and then in practice B, I would have him as an associate for another 3-4 years. And then that would cash flow for me and make passive income off of that.
Okay, so we got A and B, and A is the 70-year-old, and he wants to sell, and B is he wants to sell and go, and B the guy wants to stay on as a partner, right? Okay.
Well, he wants to stay on as an associate.
As an associate. Okay. So I'll just tell you the things. McDonald's. There's the urban mythology of reality versus what really like Elon Musk. What is wrong with that dude? He still tells people he's the founder of Tesla. I mean, he wasn't the founder of Tesla. I mean, he probably has a great flair for marketing. Because people are really great marketers or great storytellers, and that helps. Kind of like Walt Disney. So let's go back to McDonald's. The movie is Ray Kroc's the founder of McDonald's, blah blah blah, and he's right up there in Des Plaines, Indiana, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. Dick McDonald's and his brother, they spent their entire lifetime rolling out 12 stores, and one of them was out here in Phoenix, and it failed. But it's all about their prototype. What I don't like about buying both offices, I'll just shoot it down right out of the gate, is it took the McDonald's brothers their whole life to get their franchise down to figure out one store. Ray Kroc bought that and then even changed and modified that. They still had emotional attachments to like real cream and not any artificial stuff or whatever, stuff like that. But it's so hard to get all you want is your prototype, because if you spend 10 years perfecting Nolan's family dentistry, And finally, after 10 years, I go into 8 operatories, and every operatory is like Southwest Airlines, where they only fly a 737-300. If I go into every operatory, it's the same. If I go to the third drawer on the left, the gauze is right there. Everything's the same. All my systems, tubs, I finally got it deal. Now, if you had an office A and an office B, and they were two different, let's say one was high end, one was low end, one was, what I mean, I couldn't even imagine, and I've never seen it, where someone figured out 2 prototypes and went with it. And it's the other difference between a roll up and rolling out. Like Aspen, if they go start at 10 more new locations, they go buy the land and they set up the cookie cutters. I mean, they're all identical. That's a rollout. These DSOs that are roll-ups where, here's I just want to have 1,000 locations, and here's a guy that's selling 10 in Kansas, and we're not in Kansas, so we'll go buy those 10. And those 10, none of them are the same. Some are 3 up, 4 up, 5 up. I mean, they're just noise. They're serving customers. They might make some money, but eventually someday they'll be ran over from behind by someone who has a plan and knows exactly what we're doing. McDonald's would never go out there, raise some capital, and go buy 100 hamburger restaurants and roll them into McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I would do this. I would the big money. The big money, obviously, when somebody's subsidized, when you buy something and someone's subsidized, there's more money in that. I mean, I've gone to all the countries that don't have dental insurance, and dentistry isn't like this. I mean, imagine you're going to go buy something for $1,000, and out of nowhere your employer says, "Hey, Nolan, would you like me to pay for half of that for you?" Oh, gee, I don't know. Let's all think about this. So it's like the government. If they subsidize it, there's going to be a shitload more of it. If they tax it or regulate it, it's going to be more expensive and less of it. And they don't realize that every time they pass HIPAA, OSHA, anytime they pass a law, they make everything more expensive, less available. But when you subsidize it, when you give it money, it grows. So the dental insurance market, it just happened to come out that way. Is after World War II, the Truman. After the war was over, they didn't undo those World War II things, and one of those was a freeze in wages. And whenever they do that, when New York City does that, and they say, well, we're going to freeze the rents of apartment complex. Okay, so no one's going to build one damn new apartment complex because, some AOC genius has got it all figured out, and she knows how to make everything for free, and then the whole thing goes in decline. But anyway, they didn't get rid of their government stupidity with a raise freeze. So the unions worked around it, and they said, well, you can't give us more money, give us free dental. So that was just an American thing. It was very weird. But there's a shitload of money sloshing around in that. And the money seems to be there if someone comes in and they're doing, they get their wisdom teeth pulled. That's 80% of 4 teeth. Molar endo's 80%. But when you do the molar endo, if you have a endodontist come in, you'll have to give them half, but the insurance company will give you just easy math. Just say they'll give you 1,000 and they'll give the endodontist 1,500. It's more like 800 and they'll give them like 1,250, 1,300. But for easy math, if they're going to give me 1,000 and I pay you 25%, you get 250. But if they're going to give him 1,500. And then, he gets half, 750. The other thing is when you go get sued, no one sues the specialist. Like if the root canal fails and I go to a lawyer will say, well, Nolan, he'll cave. Oh, we'll send him a deal. We want his letter. We want his charts. We want all this stuff. We're going to send it to the board, or he can send us a check for $5,000. Nolan's going to say, screw it. I'm just going to give him a check for $5,000. But if it's an endodontist, they're not going to fight, because he's an endodontist. And they won't fight a specialist until he has a judgment against the board. So a lot of the DSOs are saying it's just a lot cheaper to have endodontists do it. Same thing with implants. Implants are just a nightmare. I would say when the general dentist comes and works for you and does their first 10 implants, half of them fail. And then he'll do 100 and maybe a quarter of them will fail. And then between 100 and 1,000, he'll get down to like a 10% fail. And by the time he has 1,000 under his belt, you're like, well, why didn't you just hire a periodontist to come in and place them. You know what I mean? So I still see the big DSOs, the endodontists doing the molars. I see the periodontists doing the implants. The DSOs, they're massively growing, and in a fixed pool, if they're massively growing, something's massively shrinking, and it's obviously solo practitioner. I think the solo practitioner will only be able to rule in the rural areas because the DSOs can't go there, because you guys come out of dental school single and all you want is a mate. Like, have you picked out your primate yet? Your gamete breeding incubator?
I have a girlfriend, but we just started dating recently, so
yeah.
I don't know where that'll end up.
I actually don't have a girlfriend, but I do know a girl that would be very pissed if she heard me say that. So hopefully she's not a big fan of the show. But anyway, so I would say that buying. So your first question is, should I buy A and B? Oh, hell no. You need a vision. Okay. So pick A or B, right? Just find out what your vision is. And that is so important because something's making you get up out of bed every morning. I imagine it's just to go look in the mirror and see all that long hair. I imagine that's probably why you don't sleep in. But what is your vision? I mean, you got all these customers that have low costs that want to come in and have fillings and dentures and partials and cleanings and all that kind of stuff. But then you want this more implants, Invisalign, etc. But get a vision and then go in there and remember this: it's geometric expansion, like the McDonald's brothers. You know, their whole lifetime they made 12. They closed down several stores. Ray Kroc saw he was sold on the crunchy French fries. Modified it because he was already 50 years old, and then they just roll them out. Mm-hmm. Rolling them out is how you make bank. You know what you're doing and you roll them out. All this shit we see in dentistry where the whole goal is the owner dentist just wants to own 100 offices, then he wants to own 1,000, then he wants to own 1,500, and they're just rolling up all these things. I don't see how the pieces go together. I don't see how, but it's going to serve a lot of patients for a lot of years. Yeah, and that's all great. A lot of dentists will practice their whole career. A lot of patients will be served. That's not what we're talking about. But in the long run, they'll go to zero and they'll be ran over behind by someone. You know, all these mature industries, they usually consolidate with, maybe 3 or 4 players owns 2/3 of the market. Auto, it's like 11 players have the whole deal. A cottage industry is when nobody owns more than 1% of the market, like cattle, like dentistry, like wheat, corn. There's no big Fortune 500 companies that can own all the farmers because they haven't figured out how to do that faster, easier, higher quality, lower cost, more efficient. So I would get a vision, and I would as far as what I did. I mean, it's really easy to get out. I mean, I got out of school. My dad was a Kansas boy, so he paid my sister's college, but he wouldn't pay mine because he wanted me to be a self-made man. He said if he paid for my college, I go to Creighton and I do weird things with my genitals and drugs, and it was very, very, it hurt my self-esteem to have to buy weed with student loan money. I just wish my dad would have given me the money. So when I came out of school, my landlord said he'd rent me 1,000 square feet for $15 a square foot for 3 years. I said, I'll give you $20 a square foot for 5. He said, what am I doing with the extra money? I said, you're doing my build out. He said, great. So I got in that office with no money down. I went down to Healthco, which I think later got rolled into, they were out of Dallas. I think they either got rolled up into Patterson or Shine. I forget which one bought them up. I think it was Pete Frechette. It would have been either Pete Frechette at Patterson or Stanley at Henry Schein. I think it was Pete Frechette at Patterson roll up Healthco. But I just went in there. I picked out everything I wanted. It was the same amount as my student loan money. It was $87,000. He said, great, are you going to write a check for $87,000? I said, no, I don't have a dime. I said, do you want to lose the whole sale or do you want to lease it to me over 60 months with the last payment lease to own? And so he wrote me up a lease to own, and then I went down to Valley National Bank, which turned into Union Bank, which turned into Chase Bank. And I said to Darlene Wing, she gave me a credit card with $10,000 line of credit. So I got into a dental office with no money down. Now, what I
Okay.
really like is you got this Dr. A, he's 70. I mean, my God, if he loves you, I like the sellers to have skin in the game. So back when I was a young kid, you couldn't walk into a bank and say, give me $700,000 for a dental office. That's one of the reasons they didn't even cost $700,000 because you didn't have all this financial liquidity the owners used to carry. So the owner would sit down to the banker that he'd been banking at his whole life, and you'd sit down and you'd say, I want to sell Nolan my practice, and it's $1, and I'll loan him, I'll carry the 50 cents, 10 years, 10% interest, just easy math. And if you Mr. Banker, if you loan him the other half, that'd be a good deal. And the bank's thinking, okay, I know Dr. A for 10, 20, 30 years. He's a good man. You're a dentist. I mean, dentists, dentists basically only go bankrupt when they have their license taken away. And they always have their license taken away for drugs and sex. So if you just can learn how to do drugs and sex without the police involved, it shouldn't be a financial problem. And then I don't know how more clearly I can say it. I mean, if you have a problem getting arrested when you have sex and party, you have big problems, dude. You just can't have the police involved every time you're getting laid or having cocktails. But so it's a very, very low risk. I think most practices, even at Wells Fargo, has probably done the most number of banks. They don't even have a 1% failure rate. They never even hit 1%. 99 point something work. It's not a high risk deal because the barrier to entry was you had to get accepted into college, and you had to get accepted into dental school, then you had to graduate.
Right.
Now, all these barriers. Eventually, Nolan learned how to drink without the police coming. It was in one of those courses you went to, and so I would buy a practice from a single guy owner will carry. Now, if you're married, I'm going to pivot here to you're not married, you don't have any kids, right?
No.
Yeah, so let me pivot to the 10% of your class. That was the LDS section of the class, who were married and had a kid in school and one in the oven. They come out. Their mistake is they'll have two practices, and Dr. A practice nets $100,000 a year, and B practice nets say $300,000 a year, and they've already got a wife at home, a kid walking, one in the oven, and she's Mormon, so she'll have 12, and they'll end up living in a shoe, and it's like, dude, you need this income. But he thinks that the cheaper practice is cheaper. It's like, it's cheaper, but it's the same as a home. If you had 12 kids, you wouldn't buy a studio apartment. You'd buy a 3-bedroom, 4-bath. You'd buy a bigger home, right? Well, when you go to sell a studio apartment, it sells for less than a 5-bedroom home. So if I buy a practice for $100,000, well, it's going to be worth $100,000. But if I buy a practice for $1 million, it's going to be worth $1 million. So I'm buying a house big enough for my family, and I'm buying an income stream big enough for my family. Some guys just want to be ballers. Like, I know guys who walk out of dental school and they say, I want a BMW. I want a penny dropper condo facing the beach in LA, and I just want to be a baller. And to do that, I need to make this money. I said, okay, well, you need to buy a really big practice. And they do. They buy a big income stream. They're leveraged. They got it. But if you want to make $1 a year and you buy a practice that only makes 10 cents a year, you're not there. What other follow-up questions you have on this? Or what are you thinking? When all that babbling, are you thinking, when is this guy going to shut up? Or are you thinking of another question?
No, that was good input. I definitely didn't think about it that way, where I should have my prototype in place and then maybe build out from there, branch out from there. Completely switching gears, I guess. One other question that I had was, I'm thinking of getting maybe my FAGD or MAGD. Do you recommend that? Because right now I'm just kind of taking CE for the sake of taking CE, but there's really no structured goal. So do you recommend that?
I absolutely recommend it. I guarantee it. When I was a little kid, I was in 87, I've been getting that. I noticed that every time we went to the CE class, it was always the same guys over and over and over. I mean, here's Phoenix with 3.8 million metro, but it's always the same 100 guys, all these courses. Then I started noticing they were FAGDs and MAGDs. And finally, I didn't want to join it because I was only doing, I was having most of my problems with composites back then because before you were born, when they came out with the composite stuff, they didn't know what they were doing. And like 60, 70% of the dentists were having sensitivity, but no one on the seminar circuit wore, because they're all getting paid by these whores, right? So they was always like, well, you're etching too long, or you're etching too short, or you didn't have a rubber dam, or you didn't dry it enough, or you over dried it, or you under dried it. It's like all they could do was say it was you. And it was only the Japanese. I remember Dental Town did some deal in 99, and it was Fucara, or one of those companies called me, and he talked to me for about 30 minutes. Japan was the only country that listened. He says, well, it sounds like this bonding deal is a problem. And it's like, yeah, but it's all our fault. There's no way it could be Ivaclair's fault. I mean, it couldn't be Horace Colzer's fault. I mean, and all the speakers are, they had Dickerson and Hornbrook and everybody just pointing at you. And the Japanese said, yeah, we can see that. And they came out with this self-etch. And the sensitivity went away. And it was just gone completely. And I'm trying to think. I got so caught up in the bonding thing, the CE deal is so I wanted to take my FAGD. I wanted to take all on bonding courses because that was the problem. I mean, you do like 4 composites and you call them that night or the next day or whatever, and you wouldn't know if it was going to be sensitive, and you wouldn't know if it would be sensitive for a day, a week, a month. I mean, it was just nightmare. And but anyway, when they came out with the self etching, it was just gone. It was gone, and completely. But I called the FAGD guy and I said, I want to get the FAGD, but I just want to take restorative courses in Crown and Bridge. I don't want to take this implants and ortho because I'm not doing implants and ortho. And he said, no, that's not how it works. There's a curriculum, blah, blah, blah. And finally I decided, I was so mad. I argued with him for a year or two, and then he said no. So I thought, okay, so here's what I'll do. I'm in Arizona, didn't have a dental school, didn't have fluoridated water. It was really Wild West back then. But I found this guy I never heard of, Carl Misch, had the 7 3-day weekend course, and he was from Detroit, but it was at University of Pittsburgh. And I thought, well, big deal. I'll just go down there and just knock it out. I don't want to do implants. I hate this. It's stupid, but I'll knock out my requirements for my FAGD. Oh my God. It's like 1 hour into that lecture, I'd fallen completely in love with Carl Misch. It was like I just landed in Sydney, Australia. I'd never even seen this continent called dental implants, and it was a big deal. And the same thing. Like I didn't want to do TMJ. I mean, who wants? Oh, I got an idea. Why don't you just have a practice limited to little kids screaming, crying, and trying to bite you? No, thank you. TMJ, how would you like your practice just to be crazy Karens? Just crazy Karens coming in, And it's like, no, thank you. But you have these biases, but then you had to go take 16 hours of this crap to get your FAGD, and you learned in these forcing you to take pediatric dentistry, like, wow, it's not really that bad, and TMJ. Right. So spreading that, but that's not even the reason I would still do it. The reason I would still do it is the going back like Carl Misch. Like I remember Carl Misch, but he's passed on. But I don't forget my lifelong friends I met there. Same thing with the Pinky Institute. I mean, I went to the Pinky Institute, and I can't tell you 3 things Erwin Becker told me, but I can tell you my 3 roommates that I lived with for a week, for 6 weeks at a time on that beach. I mean, so you're in Chicago. Like anything, if there's 100 dentists, I'm sure 1 is an axe murderer, and I'm sure 10 don't even care about quality or whatever. But when you start going to these courses and you start meeting like-minded buddies, and if you just get 1, 2, or 3, I got about 3 lifelong local friends out of that thing, that it's just and that's a deal where you're going to be a summary of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So if you hang around with 5 people that anytime you talk about, I'll never forget, I got rid of the golfers first. I lived on the golf course, and I couldn't believe it. And every time dentists said they want to golf, I said, well, I actually live on a golf course. I don't want to drive an hour to Scottsdale. But if you're ever golfing out in Ahwatukee at the foothills, I'll golf there. And they come out there, and you'd be really excited. You're like, oh my God, it's an oral surgeon, an ortho, orthodontist and another. That's gonna be so. And then you learn on the first hole that we don't ever talk about two things: dentistry or family. This is sacred. No cell phones. We're on the golf course. No talking. They do the beer cart lady, and I'm just like, well, then why would I want to be with 4 dentists? I got 4 boys up there looking over the fence. I'd rather golf with my 4 boys than 4 dentists that want to talk about other stuff. I mean, if I'm going to be with a dentist, there's a reason I want to be with a dentist. I want to talk about dentistry because I got 4 boys and 8 grandchildren that can talk about all the other shit, okay? So I would just go... If you just start going, if you join that FAGD and you pick that 1, 2, or 3 lifelong friends that can keep pushing you, say, dude, are you serious? You never tried that? Really? You never did this or that or the burr? Sometimes just to have the cell phone, just when you're mad, just to text an x-ray to those guys and, But yeah, so I would say I would do it for finding friends for life.
Okay.
So any other questions?
No, I think those are 2 questions I really had for you that I knew you could answer. So I got good feedback on those.
Good, man. Yeah. And also I still think the best friend for life in social media is Dental Town. We still sign up 1,000 new dentists a day. And the reason Dental Town is so factually awesome is because the data is clear. If you're following me on Facebook, and let's say I'm for something and you're against it, whatever, global warming, abortion, you name it. I'm pro-abortion, you're anti-abortion, I'm pro-global warming, you're whatever. You just delete all those friends. And the data is really clear, especially the Twitter data. It's completely balkanized. Everybody that loves Trump is tweeting to each other. Everybody that hates Trump is not on. It's just 2 balkanized deals. And I can really tell who's really big on Facebook or Twitter, things like that, because they come to Dental Town and they're just used to talking to like-minded people. But you can't delete everyone else on Dental Town. You just can't sit there and you'll say something. And dentists have that Napoleon complex where their whole life, that they're everybody they talk to, they can fire. You go to the patient, I'm a doctor, you're not. You're always the top alpha bull male dog, every situation you go, and then your social media is that. And you can really see these dentists almost shocked when somebody disagrees with them or say, Nolan, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's like, Nolan's like, no one's ever even called me stupid in my entire life. I'm Dr. Everything. And so it's really good on Dental Town. It's really good on social media to go someplace where someone can say, dude, you're full of shit. That's never going to work, because everywhere else on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you just unfollow them, unfriend them, block their account, and you can't do that on Dental Town. So just stay, that's what we always say, stay humble, my friend. Stay humble to where you're transparent, you're humble, and you keep telling people what you're doing. And when they sit there and say, that's not a good idea, you just listen, you know what I mean? Instead of just shutting them down. But hey, Nolan, you're going to make it just on your good looks alone. You got a dental degree with those looks. I don't know how you can't make it, but good luck to you, buddy. And I know you're going to do fine.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Howard. Thanks for having me on this.
Oh, please call me Howard. And I gotta tell you my favorite. Can I tell you my favorite story on Rush Street?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're on Rush Street, and my God, we were walking back, and this girl had completely passed out in her own. She threw up, passed out in her own throw up. And I'll never forget it because she was I was so proud of her. I thought it was the most romantic thing I'd ever seen because I'm Irish and she was Irish. And to see an Irish woman completely passed out in her own puke, but still able to hold on to that Burger King wrapper in her hand, it was just amazing. I mean, she was still holding the wrapper of the burger she puked out. That's Irish on Rush Street. But remember when they paint the river green and all that stuff? Yeah, so she probably wasn't even Irish. She was just all great and drunk. But I'll never forget that. I could imagine being so drunk and throwing up, but still being able to hold the wrapper in my hand. That's my memory of Rush Street. So have a great day, Nolan, and thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, man. Bye-bye.